MACTFORDEDGE here, and we're going to talk about transmission fluid.
Welcome to MACT, and I hope you have a perfect time. This is a Mercy Go production.
Transmission fluid, IMHO. Yes, we all know what that means, in my humble opinion. I've put about 520,000 miles between 3 Ford Edges we have. Only had really one transmission issue, and that was with my 2008, and that was the turbine shaft speed sensor went out, and the output shaft speed sensor, of course, had to be replaced. $700 deal. It was not a physical failure due to fluid or anything like that of the 2008. So that being said, with 150,000 on this one, and the other 2011 has approximately 87,000 miles on it, I have not ran into a transmission issue. Now, one thing I have found over time with the transmission fluids, and I've been experimenting with it, is, you know, when do I change my fluid? Do I change it at 30,000? Do I change it at 60? Do I change it at 90,000? All I know, folks, is when you start getting your fluid up to the 90,000 mile mark, you're going to start feeling that sluggishness and things happen. Now, how does your fluid get to that point? Transmission fluid, two types that are going to be used in the Ford Edge. And I'll have them right here. We have a Mercon V and a Mercon LV, otherwise known as Dex, Merc, V, or LV. Essentially, Dex is a GM fluid. Now, why would you say we use a GM fluid in a Ford transmission? Well, if you didn't know this, the 6F50 transmission, which is used in the Ford Edge, as far as up through these model years, with the exception of the newer ones. I think with the 2.7 they put different transmission in it. I think it's a 6F55 or something like that. But the 6F50 is pretty much the workhorse transmission for the 2007 all the way through the 2014 model years, I believe even the 15. But it is the workhorse of transmissions. Now, why would we use Dex, Merc, mixture? Well, to be honest, and to let you know, the reason we use Dex Merc fluid is because that 6F50 transmission is also a GM transmission. It is a joint manufacturing and technology venture between General Motors and Ford. They both worked on this transmission together. They both put them in their cars. They call it by a different name and number, but it's the same transmission, folks. So that GM car, yep, 6F50 or whatever number they go by on that. But keep in mind, they do utilize the same things in most instances on that. Some minor differences, of course, but for the most part, that was a joint technology and design venture between General Motors and Ford. So we now know the history of our transmission, but what about the fluid? Now, there's a lot of things that go into the fluid. Number one of the major components of your transmission fluid will be mineral oil. Yes, mineral oil is primarily the base oil for all oils, all fluids, okay? So that's your base component that's going to create your transmission fluid. Now, some of the other components that you'll find in your transmission fluid, if you don't believe me, you can go up through there. I've got probably about 20 different safety data sheets. Now, the safety data sheet is a chemical breakdown and information provided by all the different companies on their products, and it's one of the ways you can find out what chemicals are in there. Needless to say, I tried looking up the Motorcraft stuff. I even asked for the information on what the chemicals are that are inside the transmission fluid, and of course Motorcraft has refused to answer up. A lot of the other aftermarket companies, of course, are rather free about what they do add to their fluids. But I will make one note that I did find out. The reason your transmission fluid is red is because they utilize a dye. Now that dye is red, and that dye is manufactured and derived from benzene. Benzene, of course, is a cancer-causing chemical noted throughout the world, but it's in a very, very minute amount, so just wear gloves, protect yourself. Now, some of the other components of your transmission fluid, of course, are going to be soap. Yeah, that's right, soap. They use a lot of different forms of detergent compounds to mix into the transmission fluid in order to keep things clean. So you're going to have your calciums and everything that are added in there. You're also going to have a lot of other additives to create anti-foaming, because you don't want your transmission to bubble up and foam. That creates other issues that go on inside your transmission. We're also looking at our shear and of course our viscosity ratings at what temperature. As with all things, they test the viscosity at about, I think it is 40 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius. And they look down to what its shear capabilities are. And of course, when it's cold, it's going to have a higher shear. And when it's warm, it's going to have a lower shear. And from everything that I researched on all the different fluids, you know what? They're all basically the same, okay? Plus or minus, they're all the same. And the amazing thing is your Mercon V and LV fluid are going to be pretty much the same viscosity. In my Ford Edge here, I use what we call Coastal ATF transmission fluid. Now, Coastal ATF transmission fluid is basically a Mercon V LV full synthetic fluid. No difference. I use it in my power steering if I want. I can use it in my transmission. It doesn't make any difference. I checked out the information, its shear, its viscosity at the temperatures, and it's pretty much the same thing as everything else. Okay? Not a real expensive fluid, and it does the job. What have I been running in my edges? Coastal. Not a problem. You can use Max Life. You can use Castrol. You can use Mobile. You can use whatever you want to use in your transmission fluid. But I will tell you one thing. If you're buying one particular brand thinking that you're getting something special, that's another point I want to make. Who do you think makes Motorcraft transmission fluid? Very simple. Phillips 66, folks, is the main supplier for most lube oils, including transmission fluid, for Ford Motor Company. That's it. Phillips 66. Now, here's the thing. Where does Phillips 66 get the additives to put into their transmission fluid? They get it from one of a few sources. There's very few chemical manufacturers out in this world that make the additives for the transmission fluids. It's all about sourcing, folks. They might change the chemical composition minutely to make it their special ingredient, but it's all made by one company or two companies. There's no difference, okay? So all these manufacturers, it comes down to marketing. Who gets the best marketing to sell what they want? If you believe in Ford, you buy the Ford Motorcraft Mercon V or LV fluid. If you want to save money, you usually look for somebody cheaper. The thing is, ultimately, all this transmission fluid comes out of almost the same barrel. Now, every manufacturer is going to tout what they feel they're doing with their transmission fluid to help you get better miles. But I'm going to tell you one thing. These transmissions do not have a filter. They have a screen on them. It's not a filter. It might be like a membrane. Keeps out the big stuff. It does not filter. The transmission fluid itself is circulated through that transmission. It goes around and around and around. There is no filter to speak of. So, how do you get the particulates out of this fluid? Very simple. You change the fluid. Yes, the more you change it, the less particulates. The solution to your pollution is dilution. Okay, so we dilute everything out and we change it with new. That is it, folks. That is how it works. So you change your fluid out. When do I change it? I have experimented 30,000, 60,000, 90,000 miles. I'm sticking around 50 to 60. That's what I'm going with. Why? I drive a lot of highway. The other thing is, if you tow with your Ford Edge, 30,000 miles, folks, that's when you're changing it. 30,000 miles. That is a severe service, and towing is considered severe service. So therefore, you're going to have to change your transmission fluid out about every 30,000. Now, other things that we can also think about is when we do it. You can use a machine to change your transmission fluid out, or you can go and change it out by raising it up, dumping it out, replugging it, dumping more in, driving around, coming back, unplugging it, draining it again, 3 or 4 times, folks. We're talking a lot of fluid here to change out, and each time you put new fluid in, it mixes with the old, and then it mixes with the old, and then it starts diluting it. It's going to take you 4 times. If you use a machine at a local repair shop, they can take it out and it'll come out looking nice and red and clean for you, and it takes a lot less time and effort. But if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can go out and buy all the fluid. But just keep in mind, you're going to buy all this transmission fluid anyway, and then the machine charge is not that much more, and besides that, it takes less time. So I believe in economizing my time because, you know, I make videos for y'all. I don't have time to do that sometimes. So I want to make sure that I do get the fluid changed. So the longevity of your transmission is going to be how often do you change your fluid. Do you change it when at the severe intervals? Do you change it at the 150 recommended interval? If so, you must be planning on selling that car real soon because it is not going to be around, okay? That fluid gets worn out. Now, one reason it happens, you know, you ask, another sign, well, why does the fluid turn dark black or brown? Well, here's the breakdown process of your transmission fluid as it gets older. It does start doing what we call oxidizing. They have oxidizing agents in there to help prevent that from happening, but eventually all oils oxidize. Your power steering is going to oxidize, your engine oil is going to oxidize, all this mineral oil is going to oxidize eventually. It's going to start turning brown to black. Just because it's brown or black does not mean that it's bad. I've changed fluid at 30,000. I considered it still good, but you know, I just went ahead and changed it because that's how I do my maintenance. Now, oxidation will darken the fluid. It's a natural process, and that's one sign that you can say, okay, it's starting to accumulate solubles. Solubles are dirt, particulates, things that are inside your transmission and engine and everything. Those particulates, of course, absorb it, and then, of course, they create more heat and oxidation, and then, of course, it changes the fluid. So as you go, of course, your fluid will oxidize. And again, nobody wants black transmission fluid in their car, right? We don't want that red stuff. So we go through and we change that transmission fluid. But overall, I cannot stress enough, change the transmission fluid. It's that simple. Take it in, perform the regular maintenance on it, and your transmission on that 6F50 is going to last you a long time. And of course, that transmission fluid, like I said, I'm not going to be biased towards any one particular type. If you want to use MaxLife, Castrol, you know, Coastal, Mobile, whatever brand you use, all I can tell you is AMSOIL, whatever it is, change the fluid. That's the key to it, folks. It ain't what you use. It's the fact that you change it. You can prove me wrong. You can complain down below. But ultimately, all of you are going to know it's right. And it comes down to just changing the fluid. So when you have your transmission and you start getting up to about 40,000 miles, I do recommend start thinking about changing that transmission fluid. It will only help you because the change of the transmission fluid, $150 to change the fluid, let's say. Anybody priced a new transmission out? $3,000, $4,000 or more? $150 for a fluid change. And you don't have to buy a new transmission. It's that simple. It is a very, very simple concept. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off my soapbox on transmission fluids because I know you're probably all bored of me talking about this, and I'm sure I'll get tomatoes thrown at me later. But I really do want to make everybody aware that really if you take anything out of what I've just been talking about is you change the fluid. It's that simple. I can't repeat that enough, and that's how you can get your longevity. That being said, though, we do have over here on Facebook MACTFORDEDGE on Facebook. And by all means, if you want to get a hold of me or any of the administrators on there to answer any of your mechanical or Ford Edge related questions, by all means jump on there, join, and we will get some good quick responses from all of our growing members. We are growing like hotcakes, folks. It is starting to really build up and is becoming the go-to place on the garage to get information on your Ford Edge. And if you are members of other forums, by all means stay with those forums, but join us too. It never hurts to have that information. Of course, remember the YT, right? We got the YouTube over there, and over here you can like that and go to Google Plus and of course YouTube, and of course subscribe to MACTFORDEDGE on YouTube, and of course watch my videos and learn something as we go through all of our repairs and of course additions, modifications, whatever it may be on the Ford Edge, or in this case a discussion point on various items. But again, remember, like, subscribe, and I will see you all later. And last but not least, remember, every day your feet hit the floor is a great day, and I am having a great day today, and I want you to have a great day today too. And Mercy Grill, you take it away.
Thank you, MacT. This is a Mercy Girl production. Thank you for watching MacT's videos, and remember to like and